putting it on my front.
Good.
I'm putting it on my front stoop, like because I have like a cement area in front of my stairs, in front of my door.
Right.
And I've been putting it there, so I thought it was like acclimatized enough to be ready to be planted. And it was a nice warm day, and I planted it, and it rained right afterwards. And this morning,
how lovely was that? I know the rain was great.
Yeah, it was great.
Beth, don't worry about it. Your tomato will probably pick itself up. Just watch the soil moisture, and if it dries, if it gets drier again, we don't have any rain.
Yeah.
Like by Wednesday, give it some more water, maybe even Tuesday night.
Okay.
But that wiltiness or that droopiness that you're seeing, that's just a little bit of transplant shock.
Okay.
The other thing, Beth, when you're planting tomatoes, it's a nice idea to pick off a lot of the bottom leaves.
Okay.
Really deep, where really all you have sticking out of the ground is maybe 3 sets of leaves at the top.
Okay.
All go into the ground. Now you don't do that with other plants, except marigolds. But tomatoes have a hairy stem, as well as marigolds do.
Yeah.
And when you have a hairy stem like that, that means that they'll root right along the side. And that is a really nice sturdy plant when you stick it in the ground as far. Now it needs to, of course, have decent sets of leaves above ground. But don't even worry, it's not going to fruit less. It's not going to do anything like that, because you have so much of it buried. It's just when it grows, it's going to produce tons more because of the fact that it has all this whole root system that's supporting it now.
Yeah.
So you, I mean, I'm not asking you to replant it, but every time you plant one, you can do that.
Okay, I'll do that for sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you just cut off the side leaves carefully so you don't strip the bark off the bottom.
It needs that fuzz, right?
And then sink it down. And every 3 to 4 days for sure, in the first couple of weeks, you water a tomato plant.
Every 3 to 4 days? Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be my next question, is how often do I need to water? Like,
and when you water like a tomato plant like that, it's not just a light sprinkle. Like, try to get the moisture down to where the roots are. Like, dump a good gallon or so of water, maybe even 2 gallons of water around it.
Okay.
Better to have it nice and moist. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna ask about that, about the tomato plants. I have some seedlings that I was going to use for our gardens, and I was wondering if how should I put this? They were started inside, and they're quite spindly.
I was going to say, let me guess, they're tall and skinny and spindly, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, you can stick them right in the garden, Emma, and do the same thing I just said. Stick them in quite far. But if you want to put them in a pot for like 2 weeks to get them a little stronger, that's fine too. But I'm not sure what they look like, so I'd know better if I saw them. But yeah. I would probably go straight into the ground, and then and just water them. And with them being that small, maybe you want to water a little more than I said, maybe every second to third day. Just keep them damp for the first little bit.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And for pepper plants, I was reading that they're similar to tomato plants to remove like the bottom foliage. Is that true?
So I don't find that peppers work as well when you plant them deep. Now, I almost never argue with other gardeners because, everybody's experience is a little bit different. And I learned so much from the gardeners that come through the greenhouse. But I always find that pepper plants, when you plant them deeper than what their root system is, you set them back and they take a week or two just to recover from that. They don't root along the stem the same way that a tomato or say a marigold would. Most plants want to be planted as deep as what their root system is. Now the one hint on peppers is they do need to have each other close by to pollinate, for the flowers to pollinate each other. So even if you would dig a bigger hole and put 2 pepper plants of the same pepper, like not a jalapeno and a sweet green pepper, but say
Right.
2 jalapenos in the same hole that is, a foot wide, they would
Mhm.
like that. And then you move over and you put another 2 in, depending how many you're doing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Seem to like
Great.
that.
Okay. Great. And so we're having a bit of a heat wave coming up this week. It's supposed to go up.
Apparently,
It's supposed to
yeah.
go up to like almost 38 or something. Do you have
Yeah.
any tips for handling that in the
Well,
garden?
so Beth, your tomato plant may have some heat scorch if it really is going to get that hot. So I
Okay.
would actually say go out and water them every morning. I hadn't even heard that it was supposed to get that warm.
Okay.
So sometimes you get a little bit of a white spots, almost look a little transparent on your tomato leaves when it
Okay.
is very suddenly that hot, where the tomato plant actually still only has a small amount of roots, right?
Uh-huh.
Like top completely depends on the bottom root system. So it's not drawing overly much water yet. So then they kind of get a bit of a scorch on them.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You don't need all the leaves that a tomato plant produces. Just when you
Okay.
see that, the water over the whole tomato plant, just
Okay.
cool them down a little bit. And don't do that in the evening. I'm giving you all this advice, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed at all, because really basically once you have it, you're gonna fly. It's
Mhm.
I think vegetable gardening is just a little bit of persistence at the beginning till you get it. It's nice to have a decent soil system.
Mhm.
So composting, like throwing all your kitchen scraps, well, not meat, but all your vegetables, kitchen scraps, like everything,
Yeah.
vegetables, whatever, into a bucket and then working that into the garden is a great thing.
Mhm.
You can even buy mulch, and I think, if I'm right, you can pick some up at the landfill in Steinbach. I think they mulch and they give it away to residents in Steinbach. So anytime you amend your soil and make it a little richer in compost and in your vegetables will grow better.
Mhm.
And then, just pay attention. Go out there once a day and take a look to see what's going on. It's super dry. Okay, I'm going to water it. You don't so much need synthetic fertilizer, like store-bought fertilizers,
Okay.
if you have a good composty soil.
Okay.
So should I give you some other, or should I wait till there's more people on the Zoom? If you're getting more, right? Some of these things looks like
Yeah.
this.
I think I'm not sure if anyone else will join us quite yet. Maybe it might be because originally the time was at 2, but I changed it, so I'm not sure if everyone got that message. So yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we talk about compost? Because you're recording this.
Yeah, and they
then
can watch it
people
after.
can watch it later too.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so if you have, grass clippings and you have vegetable peels and all that kind of thing, and
Eggshells.
throw them in eggshells. Exactly. Even your cough grounds, stuffed grounds,
Mhm.
filter and all. That filter is not going to matter. You can throw that in.
Right.
So make a pile in a corner of your garden somewhere. What makes it work the best is if you shovel a little bit of soil over top. Like make a pile one day, you shovel an inch or 2 of soil over top. Water it down, like hose it down. It'll start rotting down there. The heat and the water, like summer heat and water, is what decomposes all that stuff at the bottom. And then you add another layer and you do the same thing. You add a little more soil and you add more water. And keep turning it as well. Like every couple of weeks, go out there with a shovel and just turn it over. And that's how you're going to get a decent compost, or that's how it'll compost. It'll break down the fastest. Garden peelings and whatever. The only thing I wouldn't throw in there is rhubarb leaves. They seem to, that's not a good thing to have in there. I wouldn't throw things in like big twigs or branches. It takes too long to break down. But leaves you can from your yard. It's totally good. And even if they're not totally broken down, you can rake it over your garden and
Mhm.
use a garden fork or a garden hoe or something and work it in.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Sorry,
Go ahead.
how broken down does the compost need to be for it to be helpful in your garden?
Well, so if you have a ton of grass clippings and it's still kind of green, don't rake it into your garden, because for all that really green stuff to break down, and you have it in among your vegetables or whatever. So what it does is it pulls nitrogen out of your soil to help it break down. That's just a natural part of composting.
Mhm.
So I would recommend that your grass clippings, you wait a full summer, and even all your other stuff, wait a full summer, and even through the next winter, and then use it in the following spring. By then you've got compost. You don't have, grass clippings.
Mhm.
Never put sawdust in your garden, because for the same reason I just said, for your soil to work, like for it to work on breaking down your sawdust or grass clippings, it has to pull nitrogen out of the soil to do that. And then if you do that, then you're actually taking beneficial nutrients out of the soil to break it down, right? So
Mhm.
better to leave it for a full year.
Okay. My mom has one of those big
Composting.
black, bucket
Mhm.
things.
Right.
But she's having some trouble with it really working.
I think those composters are difficult for you to turn the soil in there.
Yeah, I don't think you can really.
It's
Yeah.
hard to get a shovel in there and turn it. And yeah, so sometimes a pile, or even if you have chicken wire around it, if you don't want to, seems to work better. Now, what's good about buying a black plastic composter is that it really heats up in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And heat is very good for breaking all those leaves and ever down.
Right.
Yeah, to make it back into soil. Yeah. So anything you add to your garden, like compost or manure, if you want to purchase some manure from somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be old manure, but anything like that, what makes it beautiful is that it actually has a bunch of worms that'll come and eat it, and they'll poop it back out.
Mm-hmm. That's what we want.
Lovely. And that is what you want in your garden.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want that. If you're gonna start a compost pile, you recommend in the sun.
Goes faster in the sun. Yeah. For the
Mm-hmm.
heat,
And just
right?
pardon?
For heat to get to it.
Right. And let's say like a foot across, 2 feet across of in some soil, on some soil.
On soil is very good.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and if you're in the garden, you can shovel a little more soil on top.
Right.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how big it is. That'll depend on how much stuff you are collecting, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Great. That sounds good. Let me think. So last lesson we touched on pests a little bit, and I was wondering if you have any insight on
On how to control pests?
yeah,
Like
and
garden bugs or?
yeah, and using insecticide. I did a bit of research, and it seemed like it was not recommended to use insecticides, as it wasn't very effective and not really good for the planet. Do you
Okay,
have any
so
thoughts?
you might have been hitting some American websites when you're doing your research. So
Probably, yeah.
the American, in the US, you can still buy like what we call the big gun chemicals, and they are
Mhm.
not, and I wouldn't recommend that you use them. I think they're harmful for the environment, for bees, for
Mhm.
any pollinators. But we can't sell those in Canada anymore.
Okay, well, great then.
Yeah. So in Canada, what you can buy is very environmentally friendly stuff.
Mhm.
And it takes a lot of persistence then to use them, like safer soap. It's really a soap solution.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you put a soap solution onto something that has insect eggs, those eggs will not hatch out because they're coated with soap. So that
Right.
breaks down the body systems. So, you know, Beth, even if you discover insects in your garden,
Yeah.
you can even make up your own soap solution. You can
Okay.
a tablespoon of dishwashing soap in about a liter, like a little spritz bottle of,
Yeah.
you know, you might have one left over from something, or you can buy one.
Yeah.
Just wash it out real well if it had something else in it before. But anyway, add a tablespoon of dishwash soap and then fill it up with water. But you have to be pretty persistent, like every 3 days if you have aphids or something
3
on you.
days.
Yeah, every 3 days you kind of got to go out there and check if they're dying. Potato bugs are a particular problem if you plant potatoes. So
Uh-huh.
I want to say that even if you have some bugs like potato bugs or aphids in your garden, how delicious are fresh potatoes, right?
Yeah.
Like to go out and pick potato bugs, just pick them off and throw them in a margarine tub or something and get them out of your garden. Or I guess I think it's totally worth it because I'm a bit of a foodie and I love fresh vegetables for the garden.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's anyway bugs. You can also use something called diatomaceous earth. I know, a huge word.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, right. So what that is, it's just a pulverized rock. And when you sprinkle that on your plants or around your plants, depending on where your problem is, and the bugs crawl across it, it tears up their body. So they die because of that. So it's a completely safe thing. Your pets can eat it if they want to, and it's not necessarily harm them. So that's another thing
That would be more like for like ants and things like that, and
that's correct. It's
and
often
caterpillars.
an ingredient in ant killer dust, right?
Okay. Okay.
Diatomaceous earth. If you ask at a garden center, they'll always know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Uh,
great.
That's another thing to use that's really safe. And you know, most of the stuff we can sell you, you can use within a week of harvesting your peppers or tomatoes. It's not gonna
Oh, nice.
just do one wash and it's gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can you overdo it with like this soap solution or the diatomaceous earth? Like,
Not if you're using it, like I said, you know, 1 tablespoon per liter. If you're going to put on a heavier concentration, that would probably not be good. Probably wouldn't be good for the leaves of the plant. So,
okay. Okay.
and then sometimes cucumbers. I don't know. I want to hear more about what you had problems with, Beth, but I just want to say this: if you have cucumbers, they'll sometimes get something called powdery mildew, where they get a white powder on the leaf.
Yes. Yes.
And that stops them producing as well. And that happens, that comes when we have cool, damp nights.
Okay.
It starts growing and it's really hard to turn around once you see that on your plants.
Okay.
I would say as soon as you see it, cut those leaves off. And then I think it's a baking soda, but you know, you can look that up online, but it's a baking soda solution that will stop the spread. We can sell you stuff, but if you want to try a home remedy,
Yeah.
I can't remember right now how much baking soda you use in the water, but try that to stop the spread.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that tomatoes get is called tomato blight, and that's where you had that.
I have only heard about it, but I don't have any experience with it.
Okay, so the first thing you do is you don't plant your tomatoes in the same spot in your garden. You always move them around in your garden because it is something that kind of stays in the soil.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyway, so that's the first step. And then the second one is watch your tomatoes. And if they start developing, like if they start turning brown at the bottom, the leaves, because it's in the soil, when it rains and the soil splashes up onto the leaves, that's where that whole tomato blight starts. And so if you watch and you see it starting, cut those leaves off. Like I said, your tomato plant does not need every leaf it has anyway.
Okay.
if you can do it, then come and get something called copper spray. That
Copper
is
spray, like copper, like penny.
Yeah, it's like a penny, right?
Okay.
It's total. It's just it is literally copper.
Okay.
It's very effective, and it is effective against the powdery mildew of cucumbers, and it is effective on the tomato with the blight. But having said that, if you really have a start, it's more of a preventative.
Yeah.
So it's better if you start using it when you see the first sign, or even if you've had it in the past, you spray it on your plants when they're well rooted, but you don't see a sign of the blight yet. That's really the best time to do it. And Beth, anytime you want to come into the greenhouse, like, we will spend time with you figuring it out if you have issues. This is not a problem for us to do. We really want people to be successful at gardening.
Okay.
You're successful.
Because I always feel like I just feel like greenhouses are always so busy, like so busy. I don't want to like take up a lot of time with a lot of questions.
Oh, whatever. You just come in, and sometimes we look like we're too busy and we don't properly give you time. But if I see you, I will try to. Okay. And the other person you can ask for is Teresa at Oakridge.
Teresa?
She's great at answering those kinds of questions. So you don't be shy about doing that.
Okay. I'll do that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, she's a longtime gardener too, and she's got lots of information in her head.
Okay.
So, yeah. And vegetable gardening, like I said, it's I mean, if I was going to give you any hints, it's things like you did some square foot gardening lessons. Well, it's really tight. So when you do that, and I understand why you do it, because it's limited space.
Yeah.
But then you have to be a little more careful, because now you've crowded your plants, and now you have to watch for things like powdery mildew or blight, because frankly they're so crowded together and there's not enough air movement going through the plants and all that kind of thing. What helps with that, if it is a bit tight, is that you never water in the evening. You always water in the morning.
Always water in the morning? Okay.
And the reason you do that is because then the plant has a chance to dry so that you don't, when the weather is cooler and you have dampness, that's when problems start.
Yeah.
It's not when you have nice breezy days or whatever, and the plants are getting watered, but they're not sitting with lots of wet leaves. Usually they work pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How early in the morning? Because like I have to do a school run, so I don't usually.
Oh, I would say anytime before 3 p.m.
Oh, 8 for 3 p.m. Okay, I was thinking like 9 o'clock. If 9 o'clock would be too early, but okay, great.
No, not at all.
Are we too
Anytime
late?
you want to get out there. So
Okay, awesome.
but after 3 p.m. we sometimes feel like they don't dry well enough.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Let's see. I've used for weeds just in our yard. I've used vinegar and water. That was one solution I had. Do you have any tips for weeds, dealing with weeds?
Well, exactly. I mean, like, we can still sell Killex and Roundup if if you have serious issues with weeds. We sell it under the counter, believe it or not. That's what we're required to do. So you have to tell us you have poison ivy in your yard for us to be able to sell it.
Okay.
But what I was going to say about that, but vinegar too, and I don't know, not offhand, I don't know the solution on that either, but when you add soap to some of this, like dishwash soap, it sticks to the plant a little better and they die a little better. So you can always add a teaspoon of salt, and then whatever the solution is on your vinegar concentration.
Okay.
Yeah. And then of course getting out there and digging them out, because it's work, but you get to the point where it's so satisfying, I find, or I find before I got so busy with the garden. When my dad was a gardener and he taught me a lot about gardening, but he was such a fussy man that I hardly ever got to do much because it was he's one of those guys that was, oh, just let me do it. I'll do it better, right? So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
anyway, but I picked up my love of gardening from him. And I used to like almost vibrate in the morning before, when it was still dark and I couldn't get out to my garden yet because I was so excited about getting out there. And you may never be like that, but you know, it is terribly satisfying once you successfully grow some, whether it be flowers or vegetables. So I hope you develop enough of an interest that it makes a hobby for you.
Yeah.
I found that I'm really new to gardening, but just doing the little bit that I have done so far, it's kind of therapeutic in a way, and is it takes your mind off things, and just like working with soil and just being in nature is really
right? Yeah, and just being outside instead of being inside, and
super therapeutic, and it gets your body moving too, right? And
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, whereas some conventional exercise is difficult for most people, this one would have some results.
Yeah, without putting like a concentrated effort into actual.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have kids, Beth?
Yes, I have 3 small children.
Oh yeah.
I have a kindergartner, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Yeah. So it's a little bit tricky for you to get outside, and you're driving bus, you said, right?
No, I mean, like, when I said the school run, I meant like taking my daughter to school.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoy working with getting my children outside anyway. Like in the summertime, we kind of have a no house cleaning policy.
I like that.
We do basic chores and get outside like as soon as possible. And yeah, so I'm really trying to enforce that this year because I really want my garden to do well. And it seems like my attention can only be on any given thing at like maybe 5-10 minutes the most before somebody does something like turn on this hose at high speed and make a big hole in our yard, or hit their brother back upside the head with a shovel, or just different things. So I have about 5-10 minutes spurt of things to do.
You know what, Beth? Just so you know, I've been there, all of that.
Okay. I was wondering though, like, because of that, how long do I have before when I notice something is wrong with one of the plants, like, if they're getting some mildew or blight or something, what kind of window do I have to do action, like before I lose the plant?
Well, I mean, different problems will be a different time frame, but
yeah,
a few days, no problem. Like if you're out there and just took a quick look every day to see how your people are doing, you should be fine.
Okay.
And if you're working with your kids in the garden, have you ever tried planting peas with them? Like kids love
Yes.
Good.
We generally have lots of peas and lots of cherry tomatoes, and just so that they can kind of pick at those and eat them as they want. And yeah, another thing is I learned last year is that I can't really spend a whole lot on the garden because
of course, because you have other expenses, right?
No, well, it's just that last year we spent $200 on plants, different kinds of plants, and we had this beautiful garden set up, and things got undug and things got picked before they were ready, and I was just like, you know what, okay, we're not going to spend a whole lot of money on this. We're going to spend more time than money, because
use seeds more than plants maybe. And so
exactly.
one hint I would have for you for seeding carrots, you know how the seed is like so tiny that you can hardly separate them far enough, and then they're too tight together, and then you actually have to pull a bunch of them out and throw them away so that the other ones that you leave behind grow big enough to make a carrot. But one thing I've always done is I mix my carrot seed with sugar. And
sugar?
Yeah, with sugar, and then I can seed it in, and it separates seeds far enough that I get them further apart. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
I heard of using sand, but I haven't heard of sugar.
Yeah, and sand, if you have sand available, do that for sure.
Okay. One
weather.
one problem we actually had last year was with the carrots, because the children saw me every now and again go through and like pick out if I noticed they were growing too big. Like I would what do you call it?
Yeah, you thin them out.
Thin them out, yeah. Then they thought that they can come and thin them out too, right?
Right, of course.
And we got like 4 carrots at the end of the season.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
because they're like, look, and I'm like, what are you doing with those plants? Oh, I thinned them out for you, mommy. I'm like, no, I didn't want you to thin them out.
Not right now, not yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
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 So that's one thing
So
we
do you have
struggle
any,
with.
do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I was wondering about watering. Do you water your individual plants, or would you like could we just like put this because
You can put the sprinkler on your
sprinkler
garden.
on and just let it go for 10 minutes every couple days or
Yeah, for sure.
okay. That is so much funner. That is so much funner to let the kids run to the sprinkler than it is to
Just stand
to
there.
do-
And hit them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say maybe 15, 20 minutes is probably better.
15, 20
even
minutes.
Yeah, even half an hour if it's a very hot day.
Okay. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I found that online some people were saying you can plant your seeds before the last frost. How early would you plant your seeds in the ground?
Okay, so there's a few things that you don't have to worry about. One of them is peas. They like it cold. Another one is onions or potatoes. They don't mind it. But if you do your potatoes too early, sometimes they rot in the ground, especially if we get a lot of rain, right? So don't go too much before the end of May on those. Well, not before the middle of May anyway.
Okay.
Every year is so different, right? Lettuce likes it cold, so you can put lettuce in if you like to grow lettuce.
Yeah.
It's nice to seed. If you do like to grow your own greens, then seed your lettuce. Do a little bit of a row 1 week, and then wait till the same time later and do a little bit of a row.
Yes.
And then that means that it stays fresher, right? But if you always cut your lettuce, then it stays fresher too.
Last year I had some lettuce and it got bitter, so I let it go and it seeded. And like one of the first things that popped out of my garden this spring was volunteer lettuce. That was very nice. We got to nibble.
Yeah.
We got to nibble on some lettuce leaves already.
Yeah, sometimes if you're not cutting your lettuce often enough, then the heat makes it bitter.
Yeah.
So if you stay right on top of it, you can use some of it, but not all of it. It might still get bitter in the middle of summer.
So it's the heat that makes the lettuce bitter. Okay.
Yeah. So as far as other plants, so if your beans are up when you're seeding them and we get a late frost, the beans will freeze back. You got to cover those. They'll freeze and then they're gone. What else? Of course, tomato and pepper plants are very susceptible to frost, so you want to wait till well, if you were listening to old time gardeners, they would say you wait till after the first new moon in June before you.
New moon in June.
We had that last week. So
we
presumably, according to tradition.
So if I planted this last weekend, it's not too far.
Oh, you should be just fine. But you know, if all of a sudden there's a forecast for +2 overnight, you know, maybe you want to throw some old towels or sheets on your tomato or pepper plants, because but nothing plastic, like not a bucket or plastic of any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, plastic transfers the cold right through.
Okay.
So you have to use like a fabric of some kind.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that because my friend had actually told me, oh, don't worry, for frost, you could just put a bucket over them. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, now I know not to follow that advice.
You might get away with it a bunch of times, and all of a sudden she'll probably get hammered with frost.
Okay.
Any other questions, ladies?
Let me think.
Do you, sorry, I had a question about marigolds. Are marigolds really as effective as they say to when you plant them in your garden?
To keep bugs away.
Yeah.
So they smell pretty strong, right? So
Yeah.
that is the deterrent. But
Uh-huh.
honestly, I mean, I think they're somewhat effective. Sorry, I would have to say they're not fully effective.
Okay. Yeah.
Still have to be on top of it. So, but you
Yeah.
know, it's really like there's lots of beneficial insects out there too. There
Yeah.
are ladybugs and other bugs that'll come through and they'll eat, and birds will even eat aphids on your plants, or
Okay.
that's all food for them. But
Yeah.
aphids are such a curse. Every single generation, like an aphid there'll be 30 generations in a summer. Each one is born female and each one is born pregnant. And so, yeah, I know, lovely, right?
Yeah.
Times 30. And then the last generation knows how to fly. And then that generation flies to different plants. But if you have aphids, those little guys that suck the juices out of your leaves and then they'll get all gnarly and curled up.
Yeah.
If you have aphids, it also helps when your plants are bigger and sturdier. If you just kind of blow them off with a garden hose,
Okay.
like you close them off,
Yeah.
because they can't fly till the last generation. So then you knock them to the ground and then a good portion of them die, right? You just want to reduce the population. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Wow, 30 generations in one summer.
And all of them pregnant.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I
I
know.
didn't know that. Okay. Um,
And marigolds, though, are they're such a pretty addition to a vegetable garden. They
Yeah.
seem to
Yeah.
suit a vegetable garden. And they are somewhat of a deterrent. So,
Okay. Okay.
so that's
Good.
still a good addition to your garden. And you know, you can get your kids to put the seed right into the garden. It'll
Okay.
take a while till they bloom,
Yeah.
but they'll come around if you don't want to spend the money on plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, just seed a little bit in by the end of July, beginning of August, they'll totally be blooming. And
Okay.
it'll be a reward for the kids to see that.
That
And
was
Mary-
right. Yeah. Sorry. I was gonna ask you another question. Was how late is it too late to plant seeds? Like, and we talked about too early with frost, but like how late is too late?
it's already way too late to do tomatoes and peppers. They take too long. And
Yeah.
peppers and broccoli,
Okay.
flower, all of those.
Okay.
You have to do those indoors, all of the ones I just mentioned, if you want to get a crop.
Yeah.
Or putting beans and radishes and celery, it's too late too. Let's go with beans and peas and radishes and carrots.
Yeah.
I never get to make my garden till the middle of June at the earliest because I don't have
Okay.
time. I
Yeah.
always get a good crop of everything
Okay.
because the soil is really warm by then. And when the
Okay.
soil is warm, everything germinates faster. So,
Okay.
and if you're worried about stuff like beans or peas, you can soak your seed overnight and then put it the next day, and then that'll help break the seed coat open. So every seed in the world has a seed coat on it,
Yeah.
and there has to be a way to break that open, so that it can, send roots down and the plant up.
Right. Okay.
So soaking it overnight will often help with the breaking open of the seed coat.
Okay.
I mean, little ones like carrots, you can't do that, or radishes or dill, you can't do that. They're too small. But big,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we were worried. Well, I was a bit worried because of restrictions. We haven't planted our gardens yet, but hopefully.
no, you should be good. And then I want to say, Emma, that if you don't have as good a response as you want, and you've got seed left over, don't throw it out. You just put it in a Ziploc bag and in the freezer. You'll only lose you have to seal it, but you'll only lose about 15% maybe on the viability of it.
Okay.
Use it again next year. Like, don't ever throw seeds out. We use them here at Oakridge too.
Okay. Do you have to warm the seeds up in the spring before you, if you freeze them?
Yeah, just take them out of the freezer the day before. you
Okay.
know, like a margarine tub or anything like that that keeps them from getting wet in the freezer. That's all you
Okay. I'm gonna write that down because. Okay. Leftover seeds. Okay.
Do you have any other tips for beginner gardeners?
I can't think of anything right now. I feel like you've asked some good questions and I think we've answered them. And
Yeah, what you said so far is super helpful, super awesome. Yeah.
good. And the one thing I was going to say too, to get kids gardening, because I know you guys have a lot of kids that's a resource center too. Try to get them to seed stuff that is that doesn't fail, right? They got to be successful. Sometimes want to do it next. So things like zinnia seeds for the flowers, even sunflowers. You know, at least it'll get a great big plant, and some of them produce lots of seeds. Marigolds are tough seeds. Anything that has a seed that isn't easily damaged or isn't easily lost in their years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to plant, when I do a junior gardener course, we like to plant things like cucumbers because kids like to eat cucumbers. We like to plant peppers, like sweet peppers, because a lot of kids like to eat them. And it gives them, cherry tomatoes, the sweet ones, kids like to eat that, right? I don't know, maybe not your kids, Beth, but lots.
No, yeah, we love cherry tomatoes. That's like our favorite thing. It's still my favorite thing.
Yeah. Sweet million is like one of the sweetest. It's like eating candy. So.
Which one was that?
Sweet million. That's
Million.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. You know what? It's been nice chatting with both of you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, no worries.
I really appreciate it.
And Beth, just
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
by all means, come by and ask.
Okay, sure, I will. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye, Emma.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Only I could figure out how to close it up. There it is.
All right. Well, it's too bad no one else showed up, but we have the recording. And yeah, speaking of recording, I'll just pause it. So.
Okay.